Okay.
All right. So now we are live. Welcome. I still have to figure out, Greg. I'm gonna need your help. Everything is very sepia toned.
Yeah, that's the shaders. You can
I
turn
know.
that off for.
But it's with the light, it's still worth it. Interestingly enough.
So then you don't need my help.
I guess it's like I want to get the benefit without the orange. I don't know if that's a thing that's possible, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's the light color balance. There's color balance bars in there somewhere.
Okay. All right. So anyone want to make it nighttime and we can get out there and do some gratitude?
Hey, I can do that.
Okay, cool.
Chad, I'll have you covered since your right click isn't working.
I appreciate that. The struggle is real.
Okay, time set tonight. There we go.
Boom. Yeah. Oh yeah, the moon is coming up. That's actually like just man, it's just really good. I'm actually gonna go up on the balcony and take a look at this.
I'm not sure anyone else is going to join us since church is at 9.
Well, they usually do. Doreen is already here.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So yeah, this is our regular time now.
By the way, good morning. Yeah, I think it's sort of become the thing that we do. Even though every Sunday morning I still in my brain have 10 o'clock because I am slow. All right, so gratitudes.
Chet had one.
I'm gonna do some.
Oh, we have a pig in the church.
What? Oh hey.
Hey, don't knock yourself like that.
Wow. Wow.
Hey.
It's a joke. It's a joke. I love
Hello, little piggy.
Okay, Chad, I'm glad you explained that because otherwise,
right? Yeah.
See, I was immediately gonna make a bad police officer joke, but
oh shit!
See, I went super dark.
Yeah,
I've actually been to some BLM rallies, so
good.
Yeah, wow. Get another one today up here in Newport Richie.
So, Chet, you said Humankind?
Yes, I just started a few days ago. I started Rutger Bregman's Humankind, and it's super good. I'm only about 30 pages in. I'm hoping to get to read some of it today.
The sign is over here, Chet.
It should be a signed reading for everyone.
What was it again, Chet?
Rutger Bregman's Humankind. It's it's a sort of optimistic history rather than humans are evil and everything's always going to suck and blah blah blah.
Yeah. All right, so I need to put something more up here. Could you type in your chat what you want me to put up here?
Yeah.
Good morning to Laugh Track, who I can see in game.
Yep, Donna's here. She's waving at you from across the room.
Good morning, Laugh Track.
Bob says hi.
All right. Oh. Thankful for Rutger Bregman's Humankind.
All right.
Like it.
Yeah, I got one from Corey's mom to put up.
Okay.
Grateful that it's warm enough for coffee on the deck. Clearly, she's not living in Florida right now.
Man, we actually we put some masks on, walked out to the beach this morning at 6 and caught a bit of the sunrise, and it did not suck at all. And there was a chihuahua that decided it wanted to get right up into Brian's face. It at no point was in any way understanding how close to death it was. So that was fun. That's a little aside. I got Doreen's here.
All right, I got you, Deb. Wow, except my spelling brain is not turned on.
Doreen, I actually really love that one this morning. Grateful for lemonade.
Nice. Yeah.
It's good stuff right there.
I'm sorry, grateful for what?
Lemonade. Bob Benson, what am I looking at over here?
That was to Chet.
Yeah, I think Bob did my sign.
I got the spelling right and everything. Had to Google it.
Rucker, Bregman's, Humankind. Late yet.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Bob.
Did you say late check?
Lay.
Okay.
Morning, Fred.
I said, it's either that or latex. I'm like, what?
Skidoo?
There's a fine line between Saturday night and Sunday morning. So
I'm here to spice it up.
As ever.
As spoken by the prophet Jimmy Buffett, there's a fine line between Saturday night and Sunday morning.
Nice. That's the education I want to hear.
See,
right?
Yeah, that's the Jimmy Buffett songs that Corey doesn't know about.
No, I don't know really about any. I play Margaritaville as a funk song, so what do I know? Since about midnight, we got about 3 or 4 more minutes before we should probably start heading back up to the balcony.
I actually set it for early evening, so I think we're probably in pretty good shape there.
Yeah, no, it's midnight now.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I've been tracking.
Oh my God,
the moon.
I gotcha.
But even like as it starts to get to about 10 or 15 degrees down, like about another 60 seconds, we're gonna want to get up there because that's when the light starts to get good over the horizon.
Such a science geek. I love it. 10 degrees this way. That's good.
I mean, yep.
Can I just tell you all before I put it on the wall that this morning, Greg is grateful for Black Lives Matter.
Hell yeah.
Did you see that I already put Black Lives Matter 2020?
I did not.
It's right next to you. Look down and slightly to the right. But yeah,
we'll know what day this was.
Yeah, exactly. We don't. I don't think we can have that too many times. All right, so let's start heading back up to the balcony, please.
I got your grateful. Then I'll zoom up there.
There you go, Fred. Good morning. Nice to see you. Did I miss anybody in the comments there? Deb Avetta. Good morning, Deb. If you have a gratitude, you want to throw it in the comments, I'll scoot down and post it up.
Corey's just hanging out on a pillar here.
Yeah, I was hoping everybody would gather over by the balcony. Sun is coming up soon, so everybody please get up to the balcony.
Get to the chopper.
And we can have our moment of silence here. Greg, maybe ride shotgun on the clouds if it's blocking too much.
Yeah. Do we need a crafting table here?
No.
Fix that.
Right? Yeah, you know what we can do is we can put it in the floor. So,
yeah, Greg, maybe check the clouds out.
It's clear, Corey. It's I mean, there's a few small clouds, but
all right.
Size does matter in this case. Thank you.
Yeah, I set it to clear, so
Weird.
I see sunrise.
You do?
I see
wait,
sun.
what?
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
I don't either.
Shaders.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Oh, there's
Got
okay.
it.
Our shaders are messing with us.
Cool.
Okay, going silent.
All right, so this morning, I think I'm grateful that you guys are here and that I get reminders that it's at 9:30 and not 10. And that we're in this weird digital space making these new secular traditions. It's kind of fun. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. I think it's my mom just asked me, is that an Inukshuk? And I think she means the tree. But sure.
No, but we could make one.
We could make it an Inukshuk. That would actually be pretty fun.
Speaking of grateful, I thought to myself this morning as I'm choosing between shirts to wear, I'm like, I have choices. Not everyone has choices.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I have choices. Like I can choose this or that.
Yep.
And I guess on that same vein, remember the little things. Maybe expand on that, Corey.
Yeah, the choices thing. I was pondering it. I had sort of a blow up with Rio yesterday. There's still people that don't understand the nature and extent of their luck and privilege, and so it becomes really easy to miscalculate and misrepresent and dismiss the lived experience and pain that communities that are less fortunate and quite frankly oppressed go through. And my reaction to that yesterday was to fucking lose my shit, which you can hear the initial parts of in the podcast that got released yesterday. Not super proud of that. As it turns out, I am not, in point of fact, enlightened just yet.
But I thought you already got your certificate in the mail.
No. Also, I want certificates that we print out of the mail. I definitely want one now.
So you can wave it in people's faces angrily and say, "Hey, what are you?"
Yeah, no, I'm enlightened, you stupid son of a bitch. Haven't you ever
certified?
Been? Yeah, I'm certified
officially
by the Church of Reason, Church of Latter-day Minecrafters. What?
Little did we know, there's levels. You're level 1 enlightened.
Yes.
I think if I can butt in, I think
yes, please.
I read a really good article the other day which appealed to my biases about free will, and the argument was basically like, if there are good things in your life, that's the definition of privilege. Like that, like, it's all luck, and that's not to take away from like people's like efforts and struggles to achieve things and whatnot, but even after you achieve those things, you're lucky you achieved them, right? It's should never just think that you did it on your own, because there's no such thing. Like you need everything else around you in order to achieve things. So, and
yeah,
we're a very individualistic culture, and we like to think like you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which is like a phrase that originated in mocking the notion that you can do things by yourself, and people like unironically took it on. And I don't know, it's all luck, that doesn't mean you don't have to try, but it's all luck.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. Like even just the you know, being born in a first world country lottery, you know, puts you you know, dozens of times ahead of the rest of the human race. And then, you know, being born white in that country and being born male in that country, you know, like just the list goes on and on and on. So like the idea that you could walk around without a ridiculous amount of humility and even curiosity for the lived experience that other people were experiencing that, you know, is challenging. I mean, that's why I blew up yesterday, because there was none of that.
You handled yourself well, if I may say. I listened to the podcast, Corey.
I don't feel like I did. But thank you.
Just calm the F down, Corey. You're too hard on yourself.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Bob Benson.
You're welcome.
No, I appreciate that a lot. Okay, fucking fine then. I'll shut up. Church over, motherfuckers.
You are enlightened.
Yeah, I would like my card size. Jareen said we should get wallet size certificates so we can carry it around. Completely agreed.
Card carrying enlightened member.
I would like an enlightenment level 1 achievement card.
Church of Corey Cottrell of Latter-day Enlightened Bastards. Fred Eaters.
I would rather not have my name in the church that is, except for the whole enlightened bastards.
Well, okay,
thing,
whatever, Martin Luther.
Well, no, it's all fun and games till they name the church after you.
I want to butt in, or what do you want to call it? 2 things: church business and a shout out for Yang Speaks, because what Chet you had mentioned was also, you did a great job, Chet. In Yang Speaks with Andrew Yang, he had Sam Harris on there, and he talked about that. And so yeah, something to check out, right? Like definitely reason and science oriented in terms of luck and
I think he
cause
had
and effect.
Sorry to butt in. I think he also is having Rutger Bregman on, just to mention that. But go ahead.
Yeah,
Nice.
I think he actually has already.
Yeah.
I definitely need to listen to that. And thank you for that book. I'm gonna pop into to that as well. Also, Jareen is asking how many cards she needs. I think at least 6 or 7.
Well, there's 17 people in the Church of Reason group on Facebook.
All right.
You
have to prove somehow that you're enlightenment level 1, and so far only I have. So
Yeah.
I would have to say that I think Bob has, but mostly just because he said I handled that well, and so that by the transfer to properties of enlightenment, I think that one counts, and really everybody else too. So
Bob, did you have something else, Bob? Because you jumped in with the Yang thing. And okay, what else? Tell us.
I did. Look at that.
And
So,
thank you for getting on the railing of speechifying.
I wondered if you'd noticed that.
Yeah, it's good shit.
Excellent.
So there's someone else that is definitely aiming to join the church. So someone that Bob, have recently been interacting with, and is a friend of someone who's been on this server once in a while, called Finney Can Help.
Yes.
There's a guy named Yuri, aka Asthir, Aesthir, maybe. Anyway, he is busy trying to get a 10-year-old Mac working with Java and Minecraft. So he's trying to get on.
So all you need to do is message me his user ID when he's on, and I'll whitelist him, and then the server.
It's fucking racist.
Roger.
I didn't name it.
I know, I'm just kidding. Fred said, I would love one. What proofs do we offer? Okay, Fred, I think you need to prove to yourself that you're enlightened, or just fucking take it.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I think Fred's an automatic. I don't think
I think so too. But if you feel the need to prove to yourself somehow that you are enlightened, I am definitely open to literally any example of that. I think you just get after it with your bad self.
Again with the thunderstorms, boy.
I know, right?
Somebody should speak to the manager.
Where's Karen when you need her?
Oh God.
All right.
Nice.
I wanted to talk for a minute, if I may.
Go
on privilege, because in my work, I spend a lot of time banging privilege into the heads of men that don't think they're privileged. The kind of counseling that I'm talking about, it has to do with violence in interpersonal in intimate relationships. And one of the things that they have in common almost inevitably is they see themselves as the victims, even though they're in a class for actual physical violence against their partners, and disabusing them of the idea of their victimhood means explaining male privilege to them. Okay. So this is my experience is I feel like I have a pretty good sense of my privilege today. And I have a very good understanding of my duty once I identify privilege. Okay. But the thing is, my journey to having this privilege, this understanding of my privilege, is long-term and ongoing. Like, there are things that I knew I was privileged about when I was 18 or 19 and didn't think that gave me any responsibility. There's a lot more things now that I recognize as privileged now, and I do realize that I have a responsibility in my privilege. So when I encounter somebody that is playing some kind of victim card, right? And I sense from having had a conversation with Corey about his conversation with Rio that what was making Corey angry was that Rio was still not understanding his own privilege and what to do with it. Like, this is the thing. People that grew up poor don't want to hear that they're privileged. If you grew up having to steal money from the coffee maker at the gas station next door to make ramen for yourself before school in the morning, I'm going to have a very hard time convincing you that you lived a privileged existence, right? So what people tend to hear when you say privilege is wealthy or elite. And that's not the case. It's just a set of problems that you haven't personally had. It's all, like, my privilege is in recognizing that that if I grew up poor like that, what didn't make it more difficult was the color of my skin or my gender. And in privilege discussions and the kind of counseling I do, that's what we're talking about, male privilege. Like, I can ask, if I have 20 people in the room, 10 women and 10 men, and I ask the women, what do you do to protect yourself from being sexually assaulted? I will tell you, every woman you know has a list. Every woman you know in our culture has a list. I keep my keys in my left hand when I'm walking through dark parking garages. I don't park far from the doors of things. I don't get in elevators or go into stairwells before men. I keep mace. I keep a gun. I have a rape whistle. Every woman you know has at some point had to consider how to keep herself safe from sexual assault. When I ask the men that question, and there are no women around, they laugh at the question. Almost inevitably, there will be a titter of laughter. Hey, what do you guys do to keep yourself from being raped? And they laugh at that question. And there's the best example I can show you of what unexamined privilege looks like. Because it's a laughable question to them to not have to consider that half of the population of our country has to every day consider not being physically attacked and raped by the other half. All of them, not just, they may trust 4 or 5 guys in their lives, but beyond that little circle, they have to be on guard against this, because 1 in 4 of them are going to experience it in their lifetimes. And they all know that it's an issue that we don't even look at. So once we get there to the point where you recognize that your laughter at this issue is your privilege in action, then we can begin to ask them what can you do with your privilege to make the lives of other people better. That's what privilege is for. I have privilege. I am white and middle-aged in my hometown. So when I go to a Black Lives Matter rally, like, how I'm placing myself in the context of the rally now is I'm a rodeo clown. If the cops are going to get nasty with young African-American protesters and women, my job, as I see it, is to get between that potential violence and the potential victims of that violence. In other words, they're much less likely to beat the shit out of me and pepper spray me and tase me than they are someone angry 24-year-old black male at a rally. And I need to be ready to step in to that frame and diffuse if I can, but take the beating if I can't. And I can't imagine not doing that. But the truth is, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have been ridiculing the Black Lives Matter protesters, right? I had to go and find out exactly what Black Lives Matter's movement was about Stupid weather.
It's a sign of the times. You know, this actually is appropriate.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, you know, like, there are some privileges that I recognized earlier and some privileges that I recognized later, and I don't get to set the timetable for anybody else. You know, all I can do is be ready to have the conversation, like give them an example of their privilege that lands on them, and that makes it easier for them to see it on their own. So that's all I wanted to say, is like, I can yell at people about privilege all I want, and I do, right? I definitely do, but you know, I'm watching a guy on my Facebook feed that Corey and I have both known in person for several years now. We've worked with him, we've loved him, we've cared about him, and he's yelling and screaming about getting a bunch of people together and beating up these punk protesters. And he's a multimillionaire. You know, he's got more money than the four of us combined will probably ever have in our fucking lives. And all he does with his privilege is yell and scream about other people fucked up they are. And I don't know how to approach him. You know, I've tried before. We've had conversations before. So yesterday, I just reached my limit and just unfriended him. I'm not obligated to listen to his diatribes because he has no real understanding. And that's, you know, that's my version of yelling at people, is just opting out of their circle until they calm the fuck down.
I mean,
and building bridges. Like you did yesterday, Greg. Thank you, by the way, for pointing out how vague I was on Facebook. I'm like, oh yeah, that was totally vague. Let me add more stuff there.
Yeah, I've seen that happen where people I know genuinely to be on the same side of an issue are butting heads because something's not clear or they don't understand each other's starting place, right? And you know, it wasn't that vague, but I could see, like, if I'm as angry as Kim Littlejohn is about what's going on in her community, she's a white woman married to an African American with African American children, working in a city in an African American high school band program, right? I can see that people are dying around her. People have died around her of COVID. Last year, 2 of her students died, one of violence and one in a car accident. But she's watching the weight of all this land on her black students, and she's fucking furious. And so I can see how she could get clouded up and not hear what you meant, not read it closely enough to give it a single pass and just white supremacist, you know, where I know that's not true, right?
Plus, she doesn't know my background in the sense of, I've got a friend that she's close to the poverty line, and she's black, and, you know, a breakdown, if there's chaos around her in her situation with where she works, etc., she's going to get hurt. And so she doesn't know that. And so, I took all that perspective. So thank you for building bridges. I am grateful for that.
Once in a while. Like, my other thing that came to me yesterday is I remember watching a whole lot of people get really excited about Iraqi people tearing down monuments to their brother.
Yeah.
Like Donald Rumsfeld.
Yeah, like Donald Rumsfeld.
Yes.
Nailed it.
This is what the beginning of freedom looks like. Oh, okay.
Well, it's funny you mention that.
For them.
It's because I was thinking of that yesterday. Because, like, as I reflected on it more, I'm like, well, maybe people will stop at statues because, like, I think it was in Russia or whatever. It's like they tore down the statues, but it doesn't mean they necessarily tore down the libraries. So, you know.
Right.
I think also text-only communication just generally is bad because it's not the environment we came up in, like as a species. It's not, we're not used to, there's so many nuances to language. Words have like many meanings. Any given word can have multiple, 10 definitions. And most of our communication is nonverbal. Like we take cues from each other. A lot of it's like beyond our own, a lot of it's subconscious, So being in these large, yelling matches and using only text it's not good for us. And I really hope that as the internet advances, we're going to be able to look at each other like this a lot more. And I think it's going to help us communicate generally. There's a a book I read a long time ago called The Alphabet versus the Goddess. And it's this super fascinating analysis of history by I believe is an art historian. And he basically talks about how when, the written word came along, which is basically like correlates with civilization, right? Written language came along and we kind of lost our minds. Like we started we became captured by these abstract ideas that we treat as concrete because they're written down, like in oral traditions, in like hunter-gatherer societies. They'll tell stories, but they tell a different. They think well, maybe they think it's the same story every time, but they tell the same structure of a story. But every time the story comes up, it's different and it's told for different purposes. And it has like different moral lessons, and the culture is fluid and it changes naturally according to circumstance.
Wait, what is fluid? The culture is fluid. How? What does that mean?
It means if things aren't written down, and if you have no concept of writing down, like if I don't write down a story and I have no concept of what a written story means, every time I tell the story, it's going to be a little bit different, and it's
Gotcha.
going to be affected by circumstance, and I'm going to see different benefits and different morals in the story, and so it creates a super rigid culture whenever all that stuff gets written down. You have like what's his name, Hammurabi's code and all this jazz. Laws get very concrete, and it's something that like we haven't really reckoned with very well. I'm not saying written language is bad. I'm just saying like it affected us. And in the book, not to spoiler alert,
because we're all going to read that like this afternoon.
He talks about at the end of it how imagery, like the power of imagery, is returning, and he talks about us seeing a nuclear bomb go off and us seeing Earth rise from the surface of the moon, and us being able to share these visual images together, and how that has already affected us. And I just hope more and more we're able to use like the power of images to get past these problems we have with written language. And maybe we can find like the proper synthesis where we get the benefits out of all of it, and we don't misunderstand each other so much.
Nice.
More podcasts and fucking video conferencing and
hell yeah.
Yeah.
And Minecraft.
And Minecraft, yeah.
Honestly. People crave long form, and that's something like television never anticipated.
Right.
Well,
but like it's interesting too, right? Because like Twitter functions because it's tiny, and long form podcasts function because they're not.
Man, I hate Twitter.
Yeah, no, I do too. Like
it's the worst form of communication ever invented by man. I guarantee it.
Yeah, no, I definitely am not arguing with that, because and you see the default.
Okay, I have a different view.
Well, no, the default forms that it creates are almost necessarily combative, and like if you look at the gestalt value that it produces from an intellectual point of view, it's going to be really, really low. Now, granted, and this might be where Greg's going, from an information, like getting information out very, very quickly to large groups of people.
It's fast
in context, right? It's fast. So if you have a video about a black guy getting shot in the back running away from cops in Atlanta, it takes hours or minutes, right, to get out into the world. Whereas 10 years ago, they might never have even told us about it.
Well, okay, so a couple of things about Twitter. First of all, I don't tweet a lot. I retweet a lot of things. So I don't have a lot of original thought that I put out on Twitter. But I kind of like where I think where I learned that Twitter had more value than OK Poop is coming out is during the Arab Spring, when people were literally using that to be a communication node for a revolution. Okay, so right now, how I see Twitter is kind of like the Dewey Decimal System card catalog at your local library. Like, it's an access point to longer form communications and deeper communications. Like, what people tweet in 142 characters, is that still the limit? I don't even know anymore. Is no longer the whole story, right? But people that put up threads of information that have links out to other things. So I kind of see Twitter's value now as sort of exactly what I said, the card catalog. For our digital information system.
I definitely agree with that. And just to kind of try to pull things together, Corey's example was of a video posted to Twitter, right? If we had just like read like a text description of that, like, you know, like he was saying, you know, so many years ago, we probably wouldn't have heard about it. And maybe if you did hear about it, it would have been from like opening the morning newspaper and reading a paragraph or a couple paragraphs or something.
If it made the newspaper at all, because column inches cost money.
Right. And yeah, I think using like you just can't communicate a whole lot in one or two sentences, but you can post a link, you can post videos, and you can, that space has utility. It is fast. It really does allow people to coordinate in a horizontal fashion that's just never before existed in human history. So like my hope is that someday we actually get, I looked it up the other day, there's like, I think 4.5 billion people on the internet. My hope is that someday we're all able to sit down and work things out together on the internet. 7 billion plus people, somehow we can interface with each other and make decisions together that work for everybody. And that sounds, utopian or whatever, but I don't think if you consider what's changed in the last 20 years, I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility. And 20 years is nothing.
Yeah, right. I've been, I started listening to, I kept telling Bob, since we named this world Bob, about the Bobiverse and the Bob books. And I highly recommend them on Audible, but they're good besides.
I'll second that.
Yeah, they're fun. It's basically like, one guy gets turned into an AI who gets, imbued into a ship, and they start thinking in timescales because he starts reproducing himself, and they pick their own names. It's all awesome. And it's quite frankly what happens 2,000 years before all of the culture novels. Like they're literally linear. Like they're the same story, just in different timescales. But they start thinking about that stuff, right? When you're immortal, 20 years is nothing, right? It takes 15 years to travel out to the next system, and that's just normal. The whole design functionality for them is to be von Neumann probes, which is basically just self-replicating probes that take over the entire galaxy, which is super fun.
You're such a nerd.
Yeah, whatever. That's it. That's just indefinitely true. Anyway, so one of the things we did last week that I really loved was watch the sunset behind the cathedral, and that's going to happen now.
Nice. You guys know I made a little park behind the cathedral over here, right?
I did not know that.
Well, there's a little, waterfall and lava fall area. You guys may have noticed I haven't made many of the promised improvements on our Minecraft server. My priorities kind of shifted this last week. I've been out doing a lot of stuff out in the actual world.
Is something going on?
Yes, you shut in.
Is something going on?
I mean,
Oh, all right, guys.
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you so much for that moment, Corey. It's beautiful
Very
sunset.
nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sunset with a group of weirdos in a fucking video game, but it really is compelling.
And I just want to say thank you, everyone who could make it here in person, so to speak. Donna, Corey, Greg, myself, and Chad.
glad to be here.
I'm glad I woke up in time for once.
Yeah, I'm glad Donna pounded on my door and said, "Hey, did you know church is at 9:30?" Holy shit! No,
Thank you, Laptrack. All right, that's it for me, gents. I'm gonna roll. Yeah.
In the name
Thank
of
you guys
science.
very much for showing up, because I feel 100 times better than I did an hour ago, and it's all of your faults.
Hell yeah.
Privileged and enlightened. Fucking nailed it, Fred.
I think
that
that's
right
what
there
the
is
card-
enough. We're like,
that's what the
whatever.
card should say.
Yeah, privileged and enlightened. Yes, exactly.
Nice.
Enlightened bastards of America.
I think I'm gonna have to sacrifice that pig to the weather gods next week
Oh
Yeah,
shit.
because
Sometimes rain must fall.
All right.
all right, guys.
Yep.
Like I said, I'll try to get myself refocused on the plug-in thing. I deactivated most of them to try and chase down some of the gremlins we were having. And the biggest one is making sure we can create a big safe zone where we don't get blown up. But yeah, working on that, and I'm sorry that I haven't gotten more done on it.
I hope you get your priorities in order.
I know.
Yeah, seriously.
8-bit lives matter. I know.
Oh Jesus.
Oh no.
Someone's gonna clip that. You're in trouble.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Well, your political career. Sorry.
Yeah.
Did I tell you guys?
Really.
Did I tell you guys what I'm doing on July 4th? We're
no.
going to be celebrating All Countries Matter Day.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
There's a lot of people talking about trending it on Twitter, so I hope it happens.
Yeah, I'm in for that. That's brilliant.
All right, guys.
All right. In
All
the
right.
name of science.
In the name of science.
I'm going to dip out of the video chat. I love you guys very much, and hey, chat. I'm glad you showed up.